Let's be honest for a second. Most people aren't failing because of a lack of ability. They're blocked because they're trying too hard. Sounds contradictory, doesn't it? But here's the paradox. The more someone struggles, controls, and fights, the more prosperity. It seems to slip through our fingers. What if the problem was never the effort, but rather the permission? You watched others grow, succeed, and progress, while you always felt like you were falling behind. Almost, and there they are. The same dedication, the same prayers, the same struggle. But something invisible continues to impede progress. And deep down, there's that silent question that no one wants to say aloud. Why do I have the feeling that I'm ready, but life hasn't answered me yet? This discomfort is not failure. It's a sign. A sign that abundance mindset. It's closer than it seems. Here's a counterintuitive truth that few people talk about. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are ready to receive. And readiness has nothing to do with luck or history. It's mental, emotional, spiritual. Napoleon Hill hinted at this when he said that the mind needs to open up so that reality can change. In the next few minutes, this video will reveal the 7 subtle signs which show when the door is already open, when the faith, mindset, and action are finally aligned. Therefore, if you've ever felt restless, distrustful of a normal life, or sensed that something bigger is trying to get to you, that's no coincidence. This may be the moment when resistance transforms into receptivity. And once those signs become clear, nothing remains the same. Dissatisfaction is the first sign that prosperity has already begun from within. You're sitting there, living the same cycle. Work, bills, sleep, repetition. And yet something inside you keeps whispering, "Come on, it can't just be that." This restlessness is not drama, and it certainly isn't ingratitude. It's the first crack in the old scarcity mindset. The moment of prosperity, it starts to hit from the inside out. Because when a person stops romanticizing mediocrity, the abundance, finally, he has a place to land. Here's the twist that most people don't realize. Discomfort is a gift. Napoleon Hill spoke about this. Burning desire. And that's exactly where it starts. The person begins to realize that they can't settle for less without feeling exhausted, like wearing a jacket 2 sizes too small. That's what happens. That is millionaire mindset. Awakening. It's not arrogance, it's not ego, just alignment with the purpose. And honestly, the universe tends to respond when someone finally says, "Enough." So what do you do with this energy, without turning it into anxiety? Simple. You give the dissatisfaction a purpose. You start feeding your mind with the right stimuli. You can read books like Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, even writing a brief diary of achievements and lessons learned. Because if faith is without direction, frustration takes over. You stop letting yourself be carried away by negativity, eliminate toxic conversations, and establish small daily routines, such as discipline with money, time, and focus. And just when that inner flame ignites, a silent question decides everything. Can you control what you think about all day? Controlling your thoughts. Where prosperity truly begins. Here's the unspoken truth most people never hear. Money doesn't respond primarily to effort, but to dedication and focus. The moment you realize your mind is running on autopilot, worrying, doubting, replaying past failures, you also understand why. Abundance. It seems so distant. Prosperity isn't blocked by a lack of opportunities. It's blocked by uncontrolled thoughts. When thoughts are chaotic, the results follow the same pattern. So you learn to treat your mind like a garden. Left alone, weeds grow quickly. Fear, scarcity mindset, comparison. But when you consciously choose what goes in, everything changes. You replace mental noise with intentional stimuli, morning affirmations, a brief visualization before bed, 5 minutes of silence to refresh. Nothing mystical, nothing strange, just discipline, mental conditioning, the same principle that Napoleon Hill called autosuggestion. Little by little, the millionaire mindset, it stops being theory and becomes a habit. And this is where it gets interesting. Once thoughts are trained, perception changes. You begin to see options where, before you only saw walls. Conversations spark ideas, problems suggest solutions, and intuition becomes sharper. That's when faith. It ceases to be passive hope and transforms into active expectation. But one piece is still missing. Because controlling thoughts is powerful, yes, but without learning how to appreciate the small victories, most people lose their rhythm. Here's something counterintuitive that most people ignore. Prosperity grows where there is recognition. When you learn to value small victories, you stop sabotaging your own progress. Paying a bill on time, waking up earlier, reading 10 pages, saving a little money. These things are nothing. They are proof that you are making progress. Abundance mindset. It's already underway. People trapped in scarcity wait for great miracles. People building wealth recognize progress in motion. This change rewires the brain. Gratitude isn't just spiritual, it's strategic. Every time you acknowledge a small victory, dopamine kicks in, reinforcing action instead of procrastination. That's why disciplined people tend to stay consistent longer. They don't rely on empty promises, they rely on evidence. Napoleon Hill alluded to this when he spoke about faith supported by the recognition of growth. You don't gain confidence by winning once. You gain confidence by realizing you are making progress. So in practice, what do? You keep a progress journal. At night, 3 lines are enough. What progress have I made today? What have I learned? And what will I do better tomorrow? You celebrate progress discreetly, yet consistently. No fireworks, no ego, just awareness. And strange as it may seem, as this habit solidifies, motivation becomes more stable, almost automatic, which paves the way for the next test of true prosperity. You take action even when there is no apparent motivation. Discipline without motivation. The silent dividing line between dreamers and achievers. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody likes to hear. Motivation is unreliable. He arrives late, leaves early, and disappears precisely when things get tough. Those are the people who truly take action and want to prosperity. They learn this quickly. They stop waiting to have the desire, and they begin to act because that's who they've decided to become. Discipline isn't strength, it's identity in motion. And when that happens, everything changes. You begin to understand that action generates energy, not the other way around. On your most discouraging days, you still read 10 pages, exercise for 20 minutes, or review your finances, even without much enthusiasm. And interestingly, halfway through, the impetus begins to emerge. That's what motivates you. At work, consistently doing the boring tasks while others wait for inspiration. Napoleon Hill called this self-discipline, input feature. Without it, no abundance can be sustained. So you simplify the discipline. No grandiose plans, no overnight transformations. You establish non-negotiable points. One daily action focused on income, one focused on health, one focused on learning. Missed a day? That's okay. Start again. Don't give up. That's how it works. It becomes practical, based on repetition. And just when this consistency hardens its character, life places obstacles in its path, almost on purpose, to test something deeper. Will he give in, or will he turn resistance into an advantage? Turning obstacles into opportunities. The secret to prosperity. Here's a pattern that separates the stagnant from the unstoppable. Both face problems, but only one group. One them. When obstacles arise, most people interpret them as a stop sign. Those aligned with the prosperity read them as feedback. A delay becomes a lesson. A rejection becomes an improvement. A loss becomes a strategy. This isn't optimism. It's trained perception, the essence of abundance mindset. You stop asking yourself, why is this happening to me? And start asking yourself, what is this preparing me for? This simple shift in perspective transforms everything. Napoleon Hill observed that every setback brings a benefit of equal or greater value, but only if the mind is alert enough to extract it. So instead of letting yourself be defeated, you analyze the obstacle. What didn't work? What can be improved? What skill is lacking? Obstacles cease to seem personal and begin to seem instructive. In practice, you transform pain into data. A failed business idea? You study cash flow, pricing, and demand. A broken relationship? You learn to set boundaries and develop emotional discipline. Financial pressure? You develop skills that increase income, sales, copywriting, basic investment concepts. This is where faith, it matures. Not blind faith, but the confidence that nothing is wasted. And once that muscle is trained, something subtle happens. People and opportunities begin to appear, almost as if they were drawn to you. This isn't luck, it's alignment, and it leads directly to the next sign, the invisible magnetism. When people and opportunities start finding you, at a certain point, you notice something curious. Doors begin to open effortlessly. Conversations flow differently. Introductions seem timely. It's not a coincidence, it's alignment. When mindset, discipline, and faith, they are in sync, a silent magnetism forms. People attuned to growth recognize it instantly. That's why prosperity. It is rarely a solitary journey. It unfolds through connections, partnerships, and a shared vision. You become intentional about closeness. You spend time with thinkers, builders, and learners, even if it's through books, podcasts, or communities. Napoleon Hill called this mastermind principle, and it works because energy accumulates. Abundance mindset. It attracts collaboration, not competition. And without realizing it, you stop chasing opportunities and start to their qualification. Start choosing what aligns with your purpose instead of grabbing anything out of fear. In practical terms, you improve your presence. You listen more than you speak. You add value before asking for anything. You clean up your digital presence, study communication, and learn to articulate ideas clearly. That's how millionaire mindset it becomes visible. And once this magnetic phase is activated, life triggers the deepest question of all. Because you? Why do you feel you need more? That quiet inner pull isn't random. It's the ultimate, most powerful sign. The inner calling. The silent certainty that you were born for something greater. Deep down, you always knew. Even on the hardest days, when the numbers don't add up and opinions are heated, there's a calm, unwavering certainty whispering, this is not the end of your story. This feeling is not ego and it's not fantasy. It is purpose activating. People aligned with the prosperity. They carry this inner signal from an early age, long before the results appear. It's the seed of millionaire mindset, planted before harvest. You realize you can't fully adapt to a simple life without feeling restless. Comfort begins to feel like stagnation, and instead of numbing this discomfort, you learn to respect it. Napoleon Hill called this burning desire, the strength that survives fear, doubt, and criticism. That is why the faith. It stops being a passive belief and transforms into a commitment. You don't need applause. You need alignment. So you answer the call with action, not with waiting. You develop skills, serve people, study those who have walked the path before you. Leaders, builders, creators. Books like In Search of Meaning. In other words, the biographies of entrepreneurs and reformers are beginning to make sense on a deeper level. It's not just about money. It's about impact, contribution, legacy, abundance. Follow those who decide to make a difference. And here's the paradox. Once you accept that you were born for more, life doesn't get easier. It becomes clearer. Resistance sharpens focus. Criticism loses its power. The path narrows, but power increases. It is at this moment that all the previous signs connect into a single truth. Nothing you have experienced was random. And with this realization, the ground is ready for something greater, uniting everything and transforming awareness into decisive action. Here's the real question. After seeing all these signs, what are you going to do with them? Because awareness without action quickly turns into frustration. Prosperity doesn't reward those who merely understand. It responds to those who apply. If you recognized yourself in at least one of these signs, that's already proof that something inside you is changing. And change requires decisions. So stop for a second and reflect, where is it? Has he been playing small? Which scarcity habit still feels comfortable to you? What discipline? Are you putting it off due to a lack of motivation? Growth always requires a change. Old patterns for new patterns. Abundance, it doesn't enter crowded spaces. It arrives where the space was intentionally created. Here's a simple challenge. Today, not tomorrow, choose an action that aligns with the millionaire mindset. Read 10 pages. Develop a plan. Have a sincere conversation. Save a small amount of money. Do something even if you don't feel prepared. That's how it works. Faith. It becomes visible, not in speeches, but in movement. And once the movement begins, life responds in ways that logic cannot explain. Now the responsibility is yours. Which of the 7 signs impacted you the most? Which one bothered you because it was true? Leave your answer in the comments. Naming it empowers you. And if this message made you reflect, imagine what constant learning can do. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay connected. Because when the mind expands, it never goes back.